My spouse is an animal hoarder, and our children are living in conditions so unsanitary that I finally had no choice but to call CPS on their own mother. It's 6 in the morning, and the roosters have been crowing nonstop for the last 2 hours in our sunroom, which sits directly adjacent to our bedroom. I'm now sitting in the basement as flies swarm around me, and I've given up swatting at them because there are simply too many to bother. The basement is the area of the house with the least amount of flies, which tells you everything you need to know about the rest of our home. On top of the rooster noise is the cackle of male quail that live in our living room, housed in the base of 3 cages that are also filled with budgies and cockatiels. When I wake up each morning, I remember to put on my slippers, and I hope I get to them before stepping in dog urine or fresh dog shit. Our carpet in the master bedroom is saturated in dog urine, with many spots that haven't dried out yet, creating a permanent damp feeling underfoot that makes my skin crawl. Yesterday, my wife bought our daughter a new tortoise and a frog. The tortoise will be added to the aquarium with our bearded dragon, which is often free to roam the house because my wife believes it will be happier that way. It's free to defecate on our furniture, our floor, or wherever it was last left out. As I sit here in my basement, the one place where I do not allow any pets, the one small sanctuary I've managed to preserve in this nightmare, I'm listening to a rabbit thumping its paws on the floor above me. Or maybe it's the sound of it biting and ripping apart our wall or furniture. I'm not sure which noise it is anymore, and honestly, I don't care. We have at least 6 rabbits. Their little claws make a loud scraping and tapping noise as they scurry and hop across our laminate floors. The main level of our home is littered with rabbit droppings that get pushed to the side as our 4 children, and we inadvertently kick them around while walking through the house. The dogs likely won't get let out this morning to use the bathroom. The smaller dog doesn't even obey the command to go outside anymore. He just stares at you, confused by your directive, like he's forgotten what outside even means. If he does go out, he just comes back in to find a place to shit and pee in one of our bedrooms. Our backyard doesn't have much dog shit in it because most of it is in our bedrooms, where it stays for days on end because there's no expectation that it shouldn't be there. The new smell from the giant rug I bought for the basement has worn off. It used to smell like glue and dye, and it drowned out the odors from the dozen chickens that live in our family room and living room. They live in a couple of 36-inch fabric pop-up enclosures filled with pine shavings that are saturated with chicken shit and urine. It has soaked into our oak hardwood floors, permanently damaging them. The stench is eye-watering. We have a lot of feathered friends here. In our master bedroom are 3 more cages with a variety of exotic birds that sing loudly all day long and leave a permanent mess of seeds on the floor around the cages. They're free to roam, so our room has droppings along our bed's headboard, on our pillows, along the sides of the doors where they perch, on our bathroom mirrors, and down our shower curtains. Our sunroom has over 30 chickens, and about 8 or 10 of them are roosters. The roosters crow all day. This is where the flies breed. They come in through the 40-year-old sliding door that's often left open, the door that separates the sunroom from our living area and kitchen. The flies swarm in, and at any given time there are dozens of them in our living space. The heat and humidity bake the sunroom floor, which is covered in chicken shit and urine, and the odor spreads through the entire house. Our house is in a suburban neighborhood. We do not live on a farm. In addition to all these animals, we have 2 pet rats. They're sweet, but as you would expect, their cage is not well maintained, and it stinks 90% of the time. Our boys' room has a snake and an axolotl aquarium. One of our daughters has an algae-covered fish aquarium that we fill with water whenever we hear the filter screech because the water has evaporated too low. She also has an unkempt cage with a hamster that is rarely played with. Right now, I'm listening to mice eat through the foam board insulation in my basement. I want to get rid of them, but it's challenging with all the access to feed throughout the house. They seem to be breeding and entering the home at a faster pace than they can be exterminated. I am not a pet person, and this life is driving me insane. My wife is a pet hoarder and has ADHD. Our backyard is a ghost town of quail cages from last year when she was really into quail breeding, and we had over 150 living in our backyard. Now there remain broken and half-built cages and mounds of shavings and wood chips that she intended to use as bedding. Scattered in random places in our backyard are household garbage bags of chicken shit. When you try to lift them, they fall apart because they weigh 30 to 40 pounds, and the bags have deteriorated from sun exposure. When I challenge her about any of this, she seems to delight in the frustration it causes me because she is not happy in our marriage. It feels like accumulating animals is bringing her little bursts of dopamine with each acquisition, and she's using it as a weapon against me, against our marriage, against any attempt at normalcy. I'm tired of living like this, and I don't know what to do. Our children think this behavior is acceptable, and they often chide me for not being on board with the animals. They say I'm not a pet person. It's true that I'm not a pet person, but what we have going on here is irresponsible, unsanitary, and illegal. This is animal cruelty, and it's normalizing neglect for our children. After I posted about this situation, seeking advice from anyone who might understand, I finally sought therapy and started getting my bearings straightened out. In the midst of setting firm boundaries and beginning the monumental work to clean up literally 2 tons of chicken shit, sand, and pine shavings, and resolving the rodent problem, a call to CPS was made by a third party. An investigation followed. By that time, much of the situation had been resolved. Animals were rehomed, the home was cleaned and sanitized. Nothing came of the CPS investigation, and it was closed out pretty quickly. But the relationship was essentially permanently damaged. My wife continued to deny the problem was ever out of hand. Deep resentment developed between us. Fast forward nearly 12 months, and my wife requested a divorce. We separated, awaiting an official legal divorce. I moved into a very nice home and now have the kids 50-50. My physical and mental health has improved dramatically. My kids now have an organized and clean haven when they're with me. They seem happy. But it became clear almost immediately that the problem wasn't solved. It was just relocated. Within months of our separation, my wife began collecting animals again, dozens of them. The home once again reeked of animal urine. My oldest child reported that the mice had returned. There was so much animal feed around the property and inside the home that wild mice had endless food supplies again. The dogs still weren't potty trained. Every caged animal couldn't be cleaned regularly enough to keep the odors at bay. When I got the kids for the week, all their belongings, all their clothing, had the strongest pungent odor of dirt and urine. My home is clean and smells fresh, and the kids' belongings made my whole house stink. 2 of my kids were wearing the same clothes day and night for multiple days at a time. I called CPS based on my attorney's advice, and I felt awful about it. It felt and looked vindictive even though that wasn't my intent. I felt like garbage, like I was betraying my kids' mom's trust. I wanted to co-parent amicably, and I felt like this would destroy any chance of that. At the same time, she had a problem that was interfering with raising our children in a safe and sanitary environment. My kids loved having all the animals, but they didn't recognize the amount of time and cost required to properly care for them. They just liked the excitement of having a bunch of pets. This was going to strain my relationship with them too. They didn't realize the animals couldn't possibly be cared for adequately, that they were going to school stinking, that the home was a health concern. They saw me as the mean dad who wanted to take away all their precious animals. Part of me was actually scared of my ex-wife, like genuinely afraid for my safety. I didn't know if she knew yet about the CPS call, and part of me wanted to go over to her house and help her clean up again, tell her again to rehome the animals, but I knew that wasn't realistic. It had been the primary source of our arguments when we were together. I'd told her before moving out that I would always expect her home to be sanitary and not overrun by pets, but that I would be amicable and fair in our divorce process. Now it felt like I was being petty, even though logically, I knew that wasn't true. I couldn't shake the awful feeling about calling CPS. The next day, CPS talked to all of my kids while they were at school. My 3 younger ones all reported that they were fine. They seemed okay with the interview, like it was discreet and no big deal. But my oldest child's visit from the agent was separate. Since he goes to middle school, he spilled everything. He complained heavily about the unsanitary conditions in great detail. I didn't tell him, warn him, or coach him in any way whatsoever. In fact, I tried not to even complain about the home to them, because there was nothing they could do about it, and it would only cause them stress. He told the CPS agent that he'd asked his mom to buy him a new $10 shirt, and she'd told him no, she didn't have the money. Then 2 days later, he saw her come home with tons of new chickens and animal supplies. He corroborated every complaint I'd made. The only reason I know what he told the agent was that their mom called him that night and was quizzing him on his interview. I overheard everything he said as I was cleaning the kitchen. He was right there, boldly telling his mom all the things he'd told the agent. I was relieved there was corroboration, and it sounded like this might light a fire under their mom to make some changes again. But I also felt this crushing sadness, knowing this could become a regular cycle in the years to come. It's been over 2 years now since the situation was at its worst. I don't regret calling authorities. If anything, I'm still frustrated that she put me and the kids in a situation where that was our only option to enact change. We have guidelines regarding quantity of pets and cleanliness standards written into our custody agreement now. Neighbors have also begun calling in complaints about the dogs barking and chickens getting out. Between visits from CPS and animal control, things have improved somewhat, but I know it's only a matter of time before it happens again, because she's never truly acknowledged the problem. She's never looked inward and admitted that this is about more than just loving animals. This is about something broken inside her that she refuses to fix. My kids are resilient, and they're doing well when they're with me, but I worry about what this is teaching them, what patterns they're learning to accept as normal. I worry that one day they'll look back and wonder why I didn't do more, why I didn't fight harder to get them out of that environment completely. And I worry about my ex-wife, because despite everything, I don't hate her. I just wish she could see what everyone else sees. I wish she could understand that loving animals doesn't mean hoarding them in conditions where they suffer, where your children suffer, where everyone suffers. But some people can't see their own patterns, no matter how many times they repeat them, and all you can do is protect the people you can protect, document what needs to be documented, and hope that someday, somehow, the person you once loved finds their way back to reality.